And that's why I believe in you, because that is the greatest purpose. It's to love. Honest. It sounds corny, whatever you want to say. I don't care. I love people because there is freedom and power in loving people.
Hello, all you positive heads out there. Thanks for tuning your beautiful brainwaves into another episode of the Positive Head Podcast, where we are firmly convinced that creating success and happiness is rooted in understanding the ultimate nature of reality, and the fact that as human beings, we are all immensely powerful fractals of the one and only source consciousness, which creates and animates all things. Now, of course, understanding this powerful truth is one thing. Applying this incredibly empowering wisdom to everyday life, well, that's another, which is exactly why we provide you with a fresh serving of soul food for thought 5 days a week to help constantly remind you of what matters most. You are it. And I'm your host, Brandon Beecham. I'm the one who will be here with you each and every Wednesday, interviewing a different consciousness changemaker that is also out there working tirelessly to help catalyze change and expand awareness all across Spaceship Earth. On the other 4 weekdays, you can hear me discussing topics such as my favorite thought-provoking quotes, reading and discussing wisdom from empowering books, playing clips from various inspirational spiritual teachers, sharing a bit of mysterious news, taking questions from the audience, and essentially digging into any other mind-expansive topics that will help keep your soul fed by tuning you into positive vibrations on a consistent basis. And you guys have heard me say that if I ever run ads on the show, it will only be with a company that I fully support because I believe their intention is to make a positive difference in the world. Well, I'm pleased to announce that day has arrived and that this episode of the Positive Head Podcast is being brought to you thanks to the support of Gaia. If you're not familiar, Gaia is the go-to source for streaming consciousness content online. And you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. Check it out. All right, all you positive heads. On this week's interview episode, I am very excited to have Ophira Edut here with me on the show. Ophira is one of the astrological dynamic duo known as the Astro Twins, who have also been dubbed the astrologers to the stars. Hey there, Ophira. Welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going?
Oh, very well. Here we are at the end of 2016 as we record this, and everyone is, jumping with anticipation for the new year. And I thought how perfect that we were able to get you to come on at this time, particularly, and kind of pick your brain on what the stars have to say. And just a lot going on in the world, and so anxious to sort of get in and talk to you and see what your perspective is on everything. But before I do, kind of dig into all that stuff, as you can tell, I'm very excited. Question I always like to open up with: you're in an elevator, you've got 10 floors to answer. The girl next to you looks over, says, "What's your passion?" What do you say?
What's my passion? Astrology for sure. And, helping people get unstuck in their lives.
Ah.
Yeah.
No wonder you're on the show. I've yet to have someone answer with their passion, and it didn't make a whole lot of sense why they're here. So I'd love to get a little perspective on how you ended up, an astrologer to the stars. You have quite a unique story, so I think that would be a good place to start.
It sounds funny. I'm actually an astrologer for the people, but some stars read our horoscopes too. It's so funny.
Right. Stars are people, right? They count.
We're all made of stars,
Right. We could get into all the physics of it too, right?
I know, I love it. It sounds very Dancing with the Stars, but my twin sister and I, we were both in art school at the University of Michigan, and my college boyfriend got me a chart done. It's the wheel based on the time, date, and place that you were born. It's like a freeze frame of where all the planets were at your moment of birth. And I've since learned that it's kind of like a map. It's like the blueprint of your soul, kind of your,
right.
The instruction manual that they say people don't come with, but we really do.
Yeah,
so,
wow.
so I was amazed because I'm a Sagittarius, and I would read a little bit about Sagittarius, but then I saw, oh wow, I have 4 planets in Scorpio, which is a very different energy, and it started to explain all these facets of me that I didn't understand. So my sister and I started doing our friends' charts, calculating them, reading interpretations, and like, maybe there's something to this. Who knows? And then, that was, over 20 years ago. So since then, I've been like, wow, this really does tell you so much about your strengths, your challenges, the right timing. And it was such a great tool, such a great shortcut. People are always confused about something: love, work, money, health, family. There's so many decisions that we face, and astrology is a great tool for cutting through that and understanding the energies that are happening at that moment. So I just found it to be very efficient and practical also.
Right. Yeah, I had a chart reading many, many years ago, I guess right around 20 years, a little less than that ago. And I found it so fascinating. And, one of the things that I guess I'm curious about, as you've now been doing charts for a very long time, chart readings, have you found that there is an intuitive element tied into it for you? Or is it all strictly, okay?
You know what? It's both. What I find is that sort of the symbols in the chart maybe are almost like divination tools in a way.
Like tarot cards or something?
Yeah, or like, the Hebrew letters in Kabbalah, or sacred geometry, which you're into and talk about. Those symbols may trigger different, unlocking of codes or information. Who knows? I mean, as I start to look at a chart, I can just like make sense of the pattern and the symbols. It's something that happens if you do it enough, if you look at something enough. Yeah.
Right. Very interesting. Very interesting. And for people who want to delve into this themselves and learn, because it's obviously a very popular subject matter, and you're obviously a doer, someone who started sort of playing with it, and look, here you are, and you guys are currently doing, you and your sister are doing readings for all kinds of different magazines and webzines. And where's all the best place to find sort of readings from you guys?
Well, the best place is our website, astrostyle, STYLE.com. And we have daily, weekly, and monthly horoscopes. We also have an extensive learning section. And we also have a video course that we did in conjunction with Mind, Body, Green called Astrology Fundamentals. So anyone who wants to learn, like you can be a total beginner and learn from this video class how to read and interpret charts. So we teach how to do that. Yeah.
What a great idea.
Yeah, it's because every year we do a retreat in Tulum, Mexico for women. Right now it's for women only because of the resort we do it at, but it's called Become Your Own Astrologer. And yeah, we've created a whole curriculum for people to learn. This is something that anyone can learn, and then you just practice it, and that's how you get better. But it just, we've done I think 4 retreats, and people come total beginners, and then they're just like, oh wow, this really makes sense. So it's not that hard to learn. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's kind of intimidating looking when you see the wheel chart and everything. It looks like you're, it's like, I guess it's like anything. You're looking at it and you don't really know fully what you're looking at. It's intimidating, but
exactly.
Yeah.
But there's really only 3 parts to it. There's the planets, the zodiac signs, and the houses. Those are the 12 pieces. We call it the 3-part puzzle. So we teach people how to put that together. You learn, just like with anything, you start by learning what the zodiac signs mean, maybe, just learning about your own. The great thing is that I think, it's human nature that our most fascinating topic is ourselves. So you get, using yourself as a guinea pig is a great way to learn things, because you're getting the benefit of personal insight as well, self-awareness. And You know, some people don't want that, but most of the people listening today probably do. So.
Right. Yeah. If they're not interested in that, they're probably not tuning into the show. So absolutely. So yeah, I was very excited that you know, to connect through our mutual friend Devla and get you on the show here. And obviously the timing, as I mentioned, is great because here we are entering a new year, and we'd love to hear some you know, astrological insight into what you foresee for the new year.
Absolutely. So, you know, we look at the movements of the planet. So in astrology, there's your chart, and that never changes, but the planets are always moving. And so the moving planets, or transiting planets, as they're called, are what trigger events and energy, you know, and it plays with free will because those energies get triggered, and then we as human beings have to decide what to do with that energy. How will we use it? There's always a range of ways we could use it, for good or bad, for positive or negative. So, you know, we're all living under, I like to look at the slower moving outer planets, Jupiter, Saturn on, because they move every year or 2 or 3 years. So those influence the larger trends. Jupiter moves every year, and Jupiter rules global politics. It shows where we'll grow and expand, but where we might also have too much of something. So Jupiter is going to be in Libra, the sign of peace and diplomacy, until October 10th. It just went in there on September 9th of 2016. It's going to be there till October 10th, 2017. The last time Jupiter was in Libra were the Camp David Accords, or the Woodstock Music Festival was another time. This happens every 12 years. Jupiter goes into Libra. So it could, despite how the political climate appears, be a time for peace.
Interesting.
Of course, Vladimir Putin is a Libra, so people born under the sign of Libra often come into prominence when Jupiter is in Libra. So, or they reinvent themselves. It's interesting. Kim Kardashian, not to get all pop culture-y, but I look at it all. It's all part of world events, you know?
Sure.
Libra, and Jupiter went into Libra right before, you know, her robbery, and then she disappeared from social media after being the queen of it. So that actually, I think, did have a big effect on the world, believe it or not. A lot of people a lot of people got their information and what to follow from her. So, you know, who knows how she'll reemerge? Who knows what kind of a role Putin will have? But I'm hoping that Jupiter in Libra brings some peace efforts. Now, at the same time, we have the counterforce to Jupiter, and that's Saturn. So while Jupiter is where we expand, Saturn is where we face obstacles and restriction and barriers. Saturn is in Sagittarius, which rules international relations and global politics and that kind of thing. So it's a little bit of almost a push-pull, a little bit of a paradox.
Right.
Because so Saturn here, you know, Saturn's been here since December 2014. It's going to be there in Sagittarius until December 2017. So a lot of hard work and restructuring and exposing of, you know, harsh negative forces internationally. We've had, you know, the rise of xenophobia. We've had, we have Syria and Aleppo and the anti-immigrant, anti-refugee sentiment. We have Brexit happening. You know, this all kind of falls a lot under Saturn in Sagittarius.
Interesting.
So, and also Sagittarius rules higher education. And I thought it was interesting. Saturn rules government officials. So we had Bernie Sanders. We had a presidential runner trying to reform education. I do believe that educational reform is still going to be something that people are pushing for all year, even though they don't have Bernie Sanders. Well, they do, just not as the president. But so there's going to be that going on. And there's this ongoing Pluto-Uranus tension. This happens every 84 years. It started 2012. It went like the bulk of it was 2012 to 2015. They go into what's called a square to each other, which is this 90-degree angle. It's like a tug of war. So Uranus is about progress and the new, and Pluto is about the old guard and that 1% power. So there's a struggle between the two. Now, that's a necessary struggle, but the last time that happened was in the 1930s when Hitler became the chancellor and got himself into power there. So and then the second time it happened, we had, Donald Trump coming into power.
Right. And you've definitely heard some comparisons in some way, right? Yes. So interesting.
Yes. For anyone that I've offended, sorry, not sorry. I decided that I wasn't going to hide my political feelings because it was about more than, we thought about that a lot because we don't want to alienate people, but at the same time, you've
got to live your truth.
Alienating someone. Yeah. And we stand for, people not being marginalized and everybody having a voice and for humanity and human rights. And we don't stand for the values that Trump ran under and won under. So we're speaking our truth. We're Sagittarians. We can't help it, right? We can, but we chose not to. But on that note, you can help anything. I don't believe in using astrology to justify, being a jerk. But
it can certainly explain some tendencies, though, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah. We have a whole analysis actually of Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton's charts on our website too.
Really?
Gemini, and they're known for their double talk, and also
they're both Geminis.
No, he is. So is Mike. But he's surrounded by Geminis. Mike Pence, Newt Gingrich, Rudy Giuliani.
Wow.
And Hillary Clinton is a Scorpio. So while Geminis have itchy Twitter trigger fingers, Scorpios are secretive and, so hence the private email server and the fact that people felt that she was, not transparent enough. They couldn't be different, they couldn't be more different. Scorpios are always planning everything in their heads, but, not open. And Geminis have, spew it all out there, but then change their mind. The last Gemini president we had was George Bush Sr., who said, read my lips, no new taxes, and then raise the taxes. So it's going to be
a ride.
Yeah. For those who say, let's just wait and see what happens when he's president, I think we already, given his chart, know what's going to happen, more of the same. So we have this to deal with in 2017.
So your thoughts are, based off of his chart, is there's really not going to be any major changes. That seems to me why people voted for him. It's because they're just so tired of the same old thing. And with Hillary, it seems like, okay, we're definitely going to get the same old thing. At least with this guy, however, crazy or out there or, unrefined or whatever you want to say about him, he's seemed different, right? And certainly and I'm not big on, following politics, honestly, overall. I mean, I say I'm a nonocrat, I'm all for a whole new system. And I know that there's a process to get there. And so for me, it's like what you give energy to, you sort of co-create. And of course, there's a fine balance there too. You can't turn a blind eye to what's happening in the world. So trying to find that delicate balance, but I believe we'll look back in 100 years and say, oh my gosh, look at this system, this monetary system. I thought it was really interesting. The Pope just made the statement that capitalism is like terrorism on the world or something, I think yesterday or the day before. Yeah. And so it's interesting hearing, Forbes posted an article like that recently about how capitalism is destroying the planet. And by 2050, if we don't do something different. So I do believe we'll move from a monetary based. Yeah, it really is. I do believe we'll move from a monetary-based economy to a resource-based economy ultimately, and it's necessary.
Have to. And I love the Pope. He's a Sagittarius, so I don't love everything he does, but I think
he has been so forward-thinking for a religious figure, hasn't he?
Yeah, he was a result of those Pluto-Uranus squares and Saturn and Sagittarius too. He was that was an example of the old and the new, having the battle, but that was like a nice resolution of it, a progressive pope. So so there've been some good things, and I know what you're saying, and to me, I follow politics now because as a woman, especially, and my father's an immigrant, and
you have to with what you do as well, right? I mean, it's necessary, sort of, with your position.
Yeah, well, we are not separate from what's happening up there. What's happening up there is happening down here. It's, as above, so below. So I think that, what I like what the Pope said. And I think that, Donald Trump is the result of what we've created with a reality show and capitalist culture and,
right,
a lot of the stuff that's still going on. So
really, he embodies it all, right? From reality television to the billionaire guy, that represents the 1% in all ways, really.
Yeah. So sure, he might be different, but then he's not. So it's 2017, to bring that back to the stars, I think, Jupiter and Libra and Saturn and Sagittarius and the climate of 2017, it's going to be a time to sort that out. It's also going to be the year of the rooster. So 2016 was the year of the monkey. And that's why all that mean mudslinging was going on during the debates and everything. It's, the monkey years can be mean.
Right.
They're very...
And when you say that, you're referring to sort of Eastern astrology, right?
Yes, exactly. We'll get the Chinese horoscope of the year because that defines a year as well. So we're moving into the year of the rooster, which is a more practical and about, waking up. The rooster wakes us up. It's about hard work, got to build that nest egg, got to lay those eggs. There can be, it'll be an interesting time for gender roles too, the cocky rooster in the barnyard kind of thing.
Right.
So there's going to be that going on. And then we also look at numerology. There's a 9-year cycle that happens. So, and we have all of this on our website also. We delve into these other divination areas on Astro Style. So,
cool.
2016 was a 9 universal year. You add up the 2 plus 1 plus 6 adds up to 9. So it was the end of a 9-year cycle. And that's a time when there's sometimes, they say a lot of souls decide they don't want to continue. We lost so many icons from David Bowie to Prince to, George Michael yesterday.
Yeah, I know.
On Christmas of all days. We're all listening to him. Right? So I find it interesting that he died of heart failure with his "I gave you my heart" line that was all playing. Huh? Weird. That's a weird, creepy synchronicity right there, right?
It really is. It's fascinating, actually.
It is. Gosh. So,
I wasn't even aware it was heart related yet because this just came out and I hadn't really looked too close. I mean, I looked when I first saw it and they didn't say how. So I'm hearing now that it was heart related. That's very interesting.
According to his publicist, he had heart failure. So,
wow.
I know it's weird. Just like I think David Bowie released a video the day he died or released his album. It's almost like these, I feel, I'm not going to get into it too much, but having done so many people's charts, I do now believe in past lives and that, souls are around us. So, I think the soul is planning things that our human consciousness doesn't know. And I think that's showing up more and more too. And you can see that stuff in the chart too. In fact, I end up telling most people what they were in their past lives. And I'll tell you. Oh, wow. Chart too.
Yay! Oh, that's so exciting. Okay, cool.
Because it's really weird. We often end up doing something similar in this lifetime. So in short, 2017 is going to be a 1 year. So we're resetting this cycle. So this year of endings and transition and intensity and losses. And now we're moving into more of a year of beginnings and hope there's still a shift. There's still that transitional energy. So it's not going to be like, whew, let's all kick back and coast. But it's kind of like, all right, let's set our sights forward. All right, we got the president. We got, I'm still struggling to say his name with president personally. But, it's like the rooster energy, the one energy, the new year is like, okay, we got to deal with this. What are we going to do? Where are we going to create peace and justice and positivity and progress and that kind of thing? So that's the big broad strokes.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, hearing that it's a 1 after a 9-year cycle and then the rooster, that's all really interesting how it sort of flows together.
Right?
It seems to be sort of, it just makes a lot of logical sense. And I'm curious, bringing up the Eastern, how do you, and I know there's other sort of disciplines or, like Vedic astrology. How does all that play together in your world? Eastern versus Western versus Vedic. And, is there obviously Western is sort of your go-to. Do you believe they're all sort of just, different ways to do the same thing that are equal in their, potential?
In a lot of ways, yeah. I mean, the Chinese year defines a whole year. So the Vedic is a little bit different. But one of the things about the Vedic that I follow are the past life and karmic destiny points. They're called the nodes, the north and south nodes in the chart. And that's a big part of Vedic. What's different about Vedic is it's a little more deterministic. It's kind of like, this is your karma, it's bad, this is what you have to do.
Right.
Whereas the Western spin on everything is like really incorporating more free will and more co-creating and that sort of thing. I mean, and again, it depends on the Vedic practitioner. A Vedic astrologer might bring a Western touch to it and be like, well, this is what your chart says, but you can still do these things to, activate a different energy. So, I do have some clients from India a lot of the times whose parents did their charts when they were born, and they'll be like, oh my God, an astrologer told my mom I would never marry. So my parents are living freaking out, so it's not that helpful,
Well, yeah. And then there you sort of, take that on and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. I often will say on the show that our lives, from my own perspective on the nature of reality and what's going on here, I always say that our life is playing out at the corner of free will and destiny. So they're both there, both elements. It's like, you have these potentialities based off of, I can think back to one of the first type of readings I ever had was I had a psychic reading and the woman said, I see you in a cold place like Chicago in business. And at the time I was planning, this was in Atlanta, Georgia, and I was planning to move to Chicago and work with my uncle in business. So my jaw hit the floor. And then she said, but there's this whole other path for you in California and music. And a year later, with the help of some psilocybin mushrooms and getting in touch with the spiritual stuff, I realized I could create anything. And I decided, I ended up meeting someone from California, forming a band and, coming out here. And here I am. So what was she seeing? She was seeing the potential Brandons based off of, the where was I vibrating at that point? So there could be a version of you that's not getting married. There could be a version that is, and I believe Source will play out everything in between. So you're sort of choosing which version of self you want to see show up in your movie, and of course the goal is to experience the greatest and grandest version. And I believe that there is no time. It's all already happened. So you're literally choosing timelines with your vibration. And that's hence the kind of free will and destiny components, both, being there simultaneously.
Oh, yeah. I love that. And I definitely agree. And, astrology has made me reconsider time more. I'm like, okay, linear time is, even though it is what I do, I mean, I write daily horoscopes, yet I have this knowing that, time can be sped up or controlled. Cyclical. Or like some people think, well, there's other versions of us existing at the same time in other dimensions. And while I have no proof of that, I have no proof that they aren't. So you can make your head explode thinking about it, but
and I often try.
Yeah. yes, and it's actually in your chart too to be that way, which is funny.
Well, okay. So you've dropped a few hints about my chart, and you're of course gracious enough to take a look at it. So I'd love to hear what you see there.
Yeah,
because it's been a long time since I've done that.
I'm going to go pretty quickly to your north and south nodes, the destiny points, but just to give everybody a taste, you may know your sign, but that's your sun sign. Every month the sun visits a sign. So when you were born on July 28th, the sun was in Leo, which is why you say you're a Leo. I was December 2nd, I'm a Sagittarius. But what that really means is that the sun was in those signs. But at that same moment, all the other planets were in various other signs. And really, someone would have to be born at the same minute in the same place as you to really be guaranteed to have the same chart.
Interesting.
And even some astrologers go down to the second. So you have your rising sign or the ascendant. That's the outer you. It's based on where the sun was coming over the eastern horizon at the moment of your birth. And that's the face that you show to the world. So yours happens to be Scorpio. So even though you're this outgoing Leo, how you come across would be, more Scorpio-like. You don't like and Scorpio is very intense, very detail-focused. So, while some Leos might be like a little showy or that kind of thing, you may be a little more private as a Scorpio, or you may prefer to you probably hate small talk and like to go right into the deep and intense conversations.
For sure.
And then your moon sign, that's the inner you, and that's kind of how you respond to things. It might not be a part of you that people immediately see. They immediately see the rising sign. So they might be like, oh, I didn't know you were so friendly. I thought you were kind of intense, or I couldn't quite read you. I couldn't tell what you really thought, or I was a little intimidated by you. That's something a Scorpio rising might hear.
I have heard that a lot, actually.
Yeah, right. You're very smart. You notice everything. People feel like you're studying and analyzing them and taking them apart like a puzzle. You probably are, but you don't realize.
As a Scorpio, I'm not telling.
Right, exactly.
As a Scorpio
neither
moon.
confirm nor deny, but you might read, Leos are self-involved. Well, a Scorpio rising Leo is probably more likely to be less so and more focused on other people. So, and of course, if you were in a rock band at one point, both the Leo and the Scorpio have this sort of rock star thing. So I'm wondering if you were the lead singer. Were you?
I was. There was two vocalists. I was one of them. Good guess.
I would give any, that's the Leo Scorpio appeal, the lead singer always. So, because a Scorpio is maybe private, but they also cultivate that mystique. So there's nothing
creative
like
juice.
Yes, very creative. So the inner you, your moon sign is Sagittarius, which is the seeker, the philosopher, the wanderer, the learner, the positive psychology person, the metaphysical, let's look at everything from the big bird's eye view. So the thing that turns a Sag moon on the most are big ideas, entrepreneurship, freedom, seeing the world, finding their highest potential. So that's something that you really need. And in love also, you need that. You need someone, you do not need like the white picket fence person. I mean, look, you might, because you might need to ground you, but as long as it's not like caging.
Yeah, it hasn't worked for me thus far. I've been around a long time, yet to get married. It's like, I'll get restless, especially if it seems too white picket fancy.
Exactly. Sag is the global explorer. And you have your moon together with very close to Neptune, which is very creative and imaginative, but also very sort of ephemeral, hard to pin down. So you probably have a lot of people that are like, wow, you're so you probably like have these amazing, epic soulmate connections that don't necessarily translate in real time, but you feel like this kindred spirithood, right?
Yeah, definitely can relate to that.
Yeah, you would be like the person that would have like the all night conversation about life with makeout session and thing. And then like, oh, we're just friends 20 years later.
Right. That sounds very, very realistic in my world.
Hey, look, we all have our paths. So the north and south nodes, and we have a whole section of this on Astro Style. I really encourage people. It's in I think let me look at the site. It's called Learn. It's in our Learn section. I highly encourage going and finding yours because this is the bottom line. Like, what am I here for? Everybody wants to know why they're here. So this is why. Right. So your south node is what you were in your past lives. It's what you've already mastered. And your north node is what you're here to discover. So the south node is like your native language. The north node is like the language you came here to learn.
Interesting.
Yeah, and they're always on opposite sides. So you're like moving from one pole to the other and always negotiating these two extremes. So your south node is Gemini and your north node is Sagittarius again. So people with the Gemini past life south node are always writers, speakers, learners, information hounds. Gemini is about that quick data and quick decisions. But it can also be very logical, argumentative, fact-based, too quick to jump to conclusions. So, while you can probably find a piece of data in record time or have a strong opinion, what you're here to learn is a more philosophical Sagittarius energy, how to see the world, see the bigger picture, not get stuck in like a neighborhood or a local scene or a clique. It's easy for that to happen to you, but then you just get propelled into the bigger world all the time. So you are on a quest for the higher truth, higher knowledge, big ideas, that sort of thing. And your north node is in your second house, which is the house of work and money. So doing work involving Sagittarian things, which also include publishing and broadcasting. Right. Funny enough. Is part of what you are here to do. But you are always going to fight a little bit with this Gemini part of yourself. So does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense for sure.
So the Gemini Sagittarius node people are here for teaching, learning, spreading information, public speaking, educating. That's what your mission is about.
Definitely feels it definitely feels like an accurate an accurate description of me and what I feel is what I'm here to do as well. So
yeah. So I find almost without fail that people are often in their nodes. It's interesting, this Chicago move, because a lot of the times in like your 20s or 30s or around that time, you'll start to go down a path that's more similar to your past lives, your south node. It's like your comfort zone. Like it's what you're this is the biggest mistake we make with kids. We think, oh, they're naturally good at this, so I'll steer them into this. But it might be steering into their south nodes where they'll feel stuck, stagnant, like a been there, done that. So you might have been like, I don't know what you were going to do, but maybe it was like I think you said investing, but it was probably some sort of Gemini calculating kind of thing that was very much about facts, figures, data, boring, same old day in, day out. It would have used your intelligence, but not your greater intellect,
For sure.
So what happens a lot of the times is this big rerouting, or there's this crash where we the other thing, though, that happens, though, is that when we first go into our north node, we'll also screw it up. It's like we think, oh, I took a Rosetta Stone Spanish class. I'm going to move to some remote village and and you drop yourself there without cell phone service, and you're like, holy shit, what did I do? So you're dabbling in something Sagittarian, whether it was entrepreneurship, publishing, broadcasting, sharing your ideas, could have been a spectacular failure.
Right.
And maybe something that you were like, oh, I see, that was a mistake. I should have just gone into banking or whatever. But
all of that's true.
Yeah, we all have this. I have a Capricorn North Node, which is about business and the CEO role. And I was given a job to run a .com department when I was 27. And I went too businessy with it. And this company, was overfunded. The .com crash came and I had to fire everyone. And I thought, oh, I suck at business. I'll never go into it again. And then it took a couple of years to recover. And then I've been doing my own businesses ever since.
Right.
But yeah, it's so I want to share that for people to know, sometimes your biggest adult failure is just your rite of passage into your North
Absolutely.
Node.
It seems like it's almost always that way with people who create success. They all sort of have those failures, and the difference between those, quote unquote successful people and those who maybe aren't as successful is the difference between dusting yourself off, getting up and trying again versus throwing in the towel and saying, okay, I'm not good at business, like you mentioned, right? And then kind of resign to something less than what you're being called by your North Node to do.
Exactly. And actually it was learning about my North Node that helped me realize, it helped me forgive myself. Oh my God, I'm a 27-year-old from a blue collar family, father,
right?
Know how to run a division of a .com, why did I think I'm supposed to know how to do that? So, so many of my clients, I end up helping them, forgive themselves for something like that. So.
Cool. All right. Well, now seems like a good moment to take a quick minute to tell those of you who aren't familiar a bit about our sponsor, Gaia. I've been a big fan of Gaia for many years now, which is why they're the only content provider I've ever reached out to in regards to potentially supporting the Positive Head podcast. So needless to say, I'm very excited they're now supporting the show. Gaia truly is my personal go-to source for streaming consciousness content on the web. They have an incredible 7,000 plus exclusive videos covering 5,000 years of wisdom. Just to give you an example, on May 1st on the show Wisdom Teachings, host David Wilcock explores the scientific proof of ascension, DNA activation, and how interplanetary climate change is made possible with nested spheres of energy emanating from the galaxy. I mean, it'd be pretty hard to be more up my alley, right? As you guys all constantly hear me say, it's a daily conscious effort to maintain an elevated vibration. And if you're looking to go deep down the rabbit hole to do so, then Gaia is the best place I know of to do it, period. And you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. Check it out.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
So those are kind of the highlights of your chart. There's a lot more, but I thought that would be an interesting thing because I'm like, wow, see, he's really probably already living so much of this. So.
Yeah. I mean, do you ever get someone that you do a chart reading? I mean, for me, that was all so spot on as far as, high level of who I am and what sort of fuels me and drives me. Do you ever get anyone who says, no, that just doesn't ring true in any way, shape, or form?
You know what? Not really. But then if I do, then it's like, hello. Like I had this one who I was just like, what is going on with your dad? Or, blah, blah, blah. She had these abandonment issues with this guy that she was engaged to. And because he was always flying for business and it freaked her out. And, and I was looking at her chart. I was like, okay, well, and it didn't relate to, I was like, what? She was like, and then she told me that her dad had died in a plane crash when she was a kid. I was like, ding, ding, ding.
Oh.
Hello.
Wow.
And I still don't make that. I was like, of course you freak out when your boyfriend travels. Okay. And it was just, she hadn't made that connection. And so what will happen sometimes is I help put the puzzle pieces together for them.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I've never had anybody. No, I never have. Honestly.
Wow.
I know that sounds weird, but I have.
Really, I almost expected you to say that because, whether, of course you have people who look at astrology and say, hogwash, that's BS, what have you. But the reality is it is all connected. There's no doubt about the fact that we're influenced by for example, women and being influenced by the moon. That's a very known thing. It's like we are all made of stars. That's a known thing. It is one sort of giant system that just sort of, it's fractals, right? And so, yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me too terribly much. One thing that I have a question for you that I talked to you a little bit about, I have like a lot of synchronicity around my exact birthday, being born on my dad's birthday and his grandmother's birthday. And then her mother died on that day, and a business partner who had all kinds of, with that. I mean, it just goes kind of on and on. I've told this story before, so I won't. If people are interested, they can hear it in the second podcast, but a lot. I mean, it's like 10 minutes I can go on about my birthday and how even today, for example, for maybe every month or so, I'll check my email on my phone, and all of a sudden it will go back to saying it's my birthday, like updated on 7/28. Like I'm like, no, it's December 26th. Like what? Why is this energy? So I'm wondering if you ever see things like that very often, or if I'm just weird. Yeah.
Oh no. I mean, no. Well, we are weird, but thank God.
Yeah. Own your weirdness.
Then yes. So I like to look at the numerology of that stuff. I mean, I am all about the master numbers and angel. I started seeing 11:11 on the clock.
Yeah.
32.
Yeah, I've talked about that a lot.
Yeah. So, and that was like right when I was really starting astrology learning. And then I was like, because I have a twin, she started seeing it too at the same time separately. And we're like, oh, weird. Why do we keep seeing this? And then like, I'll see these, there'll be a time when I see 333 all the time, or 5, and then I won't see it for a long. So I've gone on to learn what that stuff meant. So, I mean, I would add up the 7/28, 7 plus 2 plus 8 is 19. And that digits down to an 8. An 8 is the number of spirituality, reincarnation, money, flow, prosperity. So I don't know if there's like maybe a message encoded in that number for you. It could be that. I mean, I don't know, but I would, I would look into the numbers. There's a book, Sylvia Brown's Angel Numbers. I think she goes all the way up to 999. You should see what 7/28 means. Cool. Google it. Yeah.
I'll do that.
Or,
what's it called? It's Angel Numbers, you said?
Yeah, I think so. Or Sylvia, I'll look at her. Maybe it's Doreen Virtue. I have it.
Yeah, she does a lot of angel stuff, Doreen Virtue, I believe.
Yeah. But the birthday, I mean, that's the day that you came into this world. So if a lot of things happen on that day, maybe it just is a confirmation that you're a powerful messenger too,
Right.
I don't know.
Right. Well, I guess, And of course, I'm so intrigued with stories of sort of synchronicity and serendipity and positive paranormal stuff. So it kind of makes sense, I suppose, in one hand, because I'm so fascinated with this sort of stuff that it would, be a part of my own sort of story, right?
Of course. Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe that's it just right there. Like, hey, you're teaching people about synchronicity and you're born on a day of synchronicities. So maybe it's just I feel like the, you called it source, whatever it is, pierces that invisible veil, it's just to give us these messages and confirmation that there's more than just this 3-dimensional reality that we're living in. And, when you see the repeating numbers, you get the synchronicities. I'm probably saying something that's like 101 for you here, but like to me, that just is like, it's like, hello, there are guides or other forces around. And if you can't visually see them, they're getting your attention here.
Right. And, speaking of those...
As I say this in New York, it's literally 1:11 p.m. So
Of course it is. Yeah. I mean, it just never ending, with how that sort of thing will just happen. And, of course, that really leads into a question that I love to ask everyone. Do you have any sort of story of synchronicity or serendipity or sort of a positive paranormal story that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I mean, the one that pops into my mind is actually how I met my husband. was funny. It happened to be a solar eclipse in my house of love that day. This was March 29th, 2006. So,
interesting.
And I was, still getting over this Scorpio guy. Who isn't? And I went to a restaurant. One of my friends was managing a restaurant in New York City. And I would go visit her and hang out. And she really did not like the Scorpio guy I was dating. And that week she'd just been like, I can't take it anymore. Enough with him. He's gone. He's over. I'm going to introduce you to the guy you're going to marry. I'm like, okay, big promise, but great.
That's so funny.
But that day, so, I decided I'd put a little more effort into my appearance per my Libra little sister's suggestion. I was like, fine, I'll, and I went to visit her, and my husband, unbeknownst to me, was in the restaurant already. He had made a wrong turn down that street.
Wow.
And then, because he's a Taurus and likes to eat, decided he'd just stop for lunch. He went into a restaurant across the street, looked around, didn't like the vibe, and just ended up in this same restaurant that I then walked into. But I saw him, and he didn't look anything like the guys I dated ever at all. But it was just like, I felt like he was like more in focus than the other people in the restaurant. And I was just like, I had this weird thought of like, oh, that's my husband. I was like, huh, what? Weird.
Wow.
Why did I just think, then I just like, okay. And I went,
crazy thought.
And, set up my laptop to write horoscopes and eat a sandwich. And he asked to be reseated next to me. And I was like, oh, I don't want to talk to anyone right now. But we talked. And of course he turned out to be cool. And, then we end up going out later that week, and now we're married, almost 10 years. But
wow.
It was because of all these weird things going on, him taking a wrong turn, my friend,
right.
It's like everything kind of came together. Then it turned out we had lived in 4 of the same neighborhoods over the past few years, but had never met each other. Weird, huh?
Wow.
So that's also super divine timing too. We weren't in the same energetic frequency until that moment.
Right. What a trip. Yeah. Those sorts of things are mind boggling, to think of something as simple as, a wrong turn. Right.
Yeah.
And how much it alters your life. And now you guys, you have a child, right? And just to think that little turn took you down is it's pretty fascinating.
Yeah. So it's like, I guess it wasn't a wrong turn, right? But, but still, like, wow, one little thing can alter everything. So it just makes you wonder, like, how much free will do we have, and how much of it is arranged? And I don't know the answer. Like you said, I think it's a corner of destiny and free will.
Right.
The more tuned in we get, the more we end up hanging out on that corner, I guess.
Right. Now, you had mentioned when you first walked in, you had the thought to yourself, that's my husband, which is very much sort of a intuitive, psychic sort of phenomenon that turned out to be true, right? Do you find, and this is something, I guess it's similar to what I asked earlier, but when you're giving readings, do you get any sort of, flashes of intuitive insight like that? Because that was a pretty big one.
Yeah, and I think it's clairaudience, as they say, where you hear things. Not like I'm hearing a voice. It's just, it sounds like it's a thought that I had, but it also was like, that wasn't my thought. So right. It makes me, but now I've realized, okay, I think maybe people's guides are standing around and just informing me or something. This is not how I was trained to think. It's not, I went to the University of Michigan. I was really good at math and science and that kind of thing. So like what I set out to do, but it's just, I believe it because it's happening to me. I'm like, I'll get information about people from their chart, but I'll just know. It's like, or I've channeled people's dead relatives. I think this is what I'm seeing about brother and blah, blah. There's a, so I'm like, how do I know that? I don't know. Someone must be telling me this.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it seems as if the veil is thinning on those sorts of things too. More and more people. Would you agree with that? That you see more and more people who are sort of not only open to this sort of stuff, but having experiences themselves.
Yeah, and what's interesting is I think technology has helped with that. It's helped speed up. It's shortened the distance between people. So I'm not one of those people who thinks technology is a bad thing. It's a tool. It can numb us out, but it also has connected us. It's spread this information and awareness. Neptune entered its home sign of Pisces 2012 too. So that has also been a huge spiritual opening. The last time it was there was when the spiritualist movement was founded in the 1850s. So,
oh wow.
Yeah, so I like to look at historical cycles too, but for sure the veil is thinning, the connections are closing, the gap is closing, and sometimes it's disconcerting because you feel like you're moving between multiple dimensions. Or do you ever feel like now I feel sort of disoriented in the material world a little bit,
For sure.
Where am I? But I think it's just going to happen more and more to people. So let's get used to it.
Yeah, me and a friend were talking about having experiences where it almost seems like I've had some experiences, and I can think of, I go to a lot of what's referred to as transformational festivals, and like Burning Man, which you maybe have heard of. And these are like
married at Burning Man. I know all about it.
Oh, yeah. Okay, good. So, yeah, I mean, it's a container for so much, sort of spiritual energy, right? There's so many people with open minds and open hearts and having, these incredible experiences. So I've had multiple experiences there over the years, or other festivals. It's happened a lot where it's like all of a sudden everything seems sort of like a stage in a way that's, like you said, almost disconcerting. It's like, hold on, like everything that's being said is sort of, in reference, I can draw a correlation between what I'm thinking and what I'm going through internally, and it turns into this weird sort of game, this play that is playing out in real physical world right in front of you in a way that is like
hologram or something.
Yeah, what's going on here? Like,
and that happens even without the special substances that sometimes get passed.
Right. Absolutely. Exactly. I mean, and I always will refer to, psychedelics or anything like that as a medicine. They certainly can open you up to that, but plenty of people have those sorts of experiences without anything, right?
I haven't ever done anything like that, and no judgment. I just, I got a 6-year-old, so I don't have time. But
right,
don't have time for the mushroom.
You need to stay grounded in this realm as much as possible.
But it's happening to me anyway. So I think it's what's just interesting about all of this is that it is really all available to anybody who chooses to, but it does take a shift and an openness, because everything we've been taught in this 3D material world sort of feels like a flimsy matchstick house when you start going into those other realms, and it just feels like, whoa, what have I learned? And this whole other reality is being mapped on top of it, and now I feel really strange, and I don't know what's real and what isn't. And then it just, then you question reality, and then you need an anchor. That's what I like about astrology, because it is real tangible symbols and a system. So it is rooted. It doesn't have you floating off into the ether too far. It's like, I feel like it keeps you anchored. So yeah.
Right.
Sound really trippy now, I know. But
Are you sure you haven't been taking anything?
No, your Sagittarius North Node has activated my Sagittarius. We're getting all.
I've been known to do that.
I love it. Yeah.
So, do you have any favorite? I was looking at, kind of reading a little bit online, and I noticed you've done some pretty interesting people. My brother's I always joke my brother and say his man crush is Sting, and I saw that you had done a reading with Sting. Do you have any favorite star readings that you've done?
Yeah. One of my favorite was Beyonce. I did a reading for her backstage at the Billboard Music Awards in 2003, right when she was like secretly starting to date Jay-Z. Funny enough, but she's a Virgo with the Scorpio moon, so she loved it. She was really into it. I printed out this whole 30-page chart, and she went and read it that night. And then she was running out on stage the next day, and she even stopped and she was like, "I read that whole thing yesterday. It was really interesting." So
cool.
I mean, she really is as nice and cool and present as she seems like she would be. And let's see. I mean, I did a little mini reading for Stevie Wonder at that same festival. And also Sting. Yeah, I mean, Sting knew his whole chart. So he's so real laid back. We shared his orange and talked about, want me to read a book called The Field by Lynn McTaggart.
I'm familiar.
Yeah, so he's super deep Libra.
Yeah.
And then I've done a reading for Emma Roberts from Scream Queens. She's a cool reader of our horoscope. And the Real Housewives, we've done our reality show. Yeah, so I've done a bunch of their readings. Was on the show. So fun stuff,
Very fun, very fun. Well, now you have, for those who want to, be able to follow your horoscopes and sort of dig in deep, you mentioned astrostyle.com. Now you also have a 2017 planner.
Yes.
That people can get?
We have a book called the 2017 Planetary Planner. You can get it from astrostyle.com. It's a complete zodiac guide for the year ahead. There's very in-depth forecasts for every sign. We've gone also month by month and pulled out the love and money and success hotspot dates. Because let's face it, we still live in the material world. We all want to know about this stuff.
Right.
So it's a you can either get the whole book, which has all the signs, 428 pages. If you're the kind of person that wants to read about yourself and everyone else in your life, get that. If you just want one for you, we've broken it into individual books by sign as well.
Smart.
Yeah,
it's thorough. You sent me a copy and I was like, wow, this is awesome. This goes deep. So for those of you who really want to dig in deep, definitely check out the 2017 Planetary Planner. It's awesome.
Thank you.
I was reading. I was like, before we were starting, I had to stop myself. I kept going, wanting to let me push back our interview. This is too cool.
Awesome. Well, it's there for you to delve into. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. We're at Astro Twins. So yeah, Instagram, YouTube, whatever, all of those. So,
all of them.
All of them. Got to be everywhere, right?
Everywhere these days. Well, this has been absolutely fascinating to pick your brain. And I so appreciate you taking the time to come on and share with us. I do have one final question that I always like to leave people off with. And it goes like this. In 60 seconds or less, what is the meaning of life according to Ophira Edut?
The meaning of this lifetime is to elevate your energetic frequency. It's, we don't belong in bodies, really. We come into bodies to learn lessons. So whatever you didn't learn in the last round in a body, we're here for an opportunity to ascend who we are so that we either get to be eternal and immortal and everywhere the next round and pure light or, figure out what we need to learn the next time.
Right. Get your North Node figured out.
Yeah, figure that out because, you'd be flying around the world instead of, struggling through your 9 to 5 or whatever. Right?
Exactly. Well, thank you so much. This has been such a pleasure, and I definitely will be following your horoscopes regularly, and I'm sure you have made a lot of new fans of astrology here, or some of them were already fans, but now they have someone new and exciting to follow. Your insight has been awesome.
Thank you. This was so fun. Cool conversation. So Happy New Year to everybody. Happy 2017. Yes. Yeah.
Here we go. All right. Thanks again, Ophira.
Sure. Bye.
Well, everyone, that concludes this week's interview episode. If you have enjoyed this positive download from our hearts and minds to yours, please take a minute, give us a rating or review on iTunes. Since iTunes is the holy grail of all things podcasting, your good reviews help us to reach more listeners. Also, we would be extremely appreciative if you would tell your friends and family about the show. Our sincere intent with the Positive Head podcast is to spread positivity to the world because we're selfish, quite honestly. I say that jokingly, but really only halfway joking. I'm referring to the good kind of selfish based on the knowing that we all get what we give in this life, because when we give, we're actually always giving to extensions of self, since we're all really one in the same consciousness, just in different bodies. So if you want to be a good selfish along with us by helping to spread the positivity, by all means, please proceed to shout about the Positive Head podcast from your rooftop. Otherwise, as you continue on your fabulous journey in this 3D reality, be sure to remember this. As long as you ain't dead, you're already positive ahead. Journey well, everyone, and thank you for being.